Good evening. I'm Peter Greer, host of Greater Diversity News' podcast, The Economic Liberation of Africa. I'm here with my co-host Gary McCant and our special guest Shay Henderson. Our focus today is ADDI, that is the African Diaspora Development Institute. Um, Gary, you want to get us started off with some questions for our special guest?
Sure, Peter. Thanks so much. And Shay, good pleasure to have a meeting you virtually. Tell us a little bit about you. I see your journey in education and IT and the military. You have a very successful background. Tell us a little bit about you.
I'm originally from Long Island, New York. I'm currently in North Carolina, and I have about 20 years as an IT technician. That started out with 6 years in the United States Army active duty, 3 combat deployments, and I'm currently still employed in that, or partially employed in that same field. And I partially retired at the age of 34, thanks to my military career and just my experiences there.
Excellent, excellent. So, based on your experience in education and travel across the globe, how did you get to this point in terms of getting involved in entrepreneurship and sort of being independent of what we see in America?
So that was directly related to my military career. I did leave home at an early age, and that kind of, gave me a sense of seeking out my place in the world in general. And, that propelled me to having to support myself. So that kind of led towards the interest in entrepreneurial endeavors and also being global and moving around. So just, leaving home early kind of gave me the need to be self-sufficient and look into self-sufficiency as a whole. So I think that kind of like propelled me into the entrepreneurial role. And and then joining the military, my background with IT kind of helped shape my interest in technology specifically. So IT, tech, and just being out in the early 90s, that was during the blue tech explosion. So that kind of, led me to stay in the IT field and focus on that.
Excellent.
Jump in and ask a couple of questions. Excuse me, Gary.
Sure.
Hey, I met you in another virtual meeting Saturday past. We were in a meeting of ADDI, that is the African Diaspora Development Institute. And it's an initiative started by Her Excellency, former Ambassador Erikana Chihambori Kwat. And tell us a little bit about how you got involved in ADDI and what your experience has been, to the extent that you think it's important.
So again, I'm kind of an advocate for, military experience, like at least experiencing it for yourself, maybe just 3 years. So with that and my extended engagement, with the military, I took a contracting position that led me to Niger. Prior to that, I had been in the Middle East, and traveling around kind of opened my eyes to, the rest of the world. So it interested me in going to Africa in general. So as I was looking at, the opportunities to go to Africa, looking at social media and the internet, I came across Dr. Ericana and her mission with ADDI, and that was in 2020. I had already visited Africa. I visited Ghana in 2018 and tried to, make some connections at that point, and was looking through social media, as I said, and came across her in that path and kind of became a general member in 2020. So just seeking out a network or a community led me to ADDI.
Gary?
Sure. Shay,
Yes.
I want to know a little bit more about what really piqued your interest about Africa, and tell us a little bit about the difference between traveling to Africa, living in Africa, and living in America. What was your experience? What did you see different or similar?
What I can say with the network, and the many connections that I've made through ADDI, it made me know that in my travels to Africa, you do have to have your community, and our community is the diasporan community. So wherever I go in Africa, I make sure to reach out to other diasporans. That's the first thing, make sure you know somebody ahead of going somewhere. Make sure you connect with those people and, look for like minds. And I do that through my network with ADDI, as well as, just reaching out to other people through social media. The things that I've noticed that are similar is the family, the feeling of family that you see in the villages, that you see in the cities. You get a sense of warmth when you're in African nations. It's just like, for me, like I said, I was raised in the Northeast, and you have that city mentality, and a lot of people would come home, to the South,
Right.
For summer, or for breaks and things of that nature, for holidays. And you have a feeling when you're going on that trip, and you're like, oh, I'm going to go see my grandmother, oh, I'm going to see my auntie. And when you get home, you feel that warmth. When you get down south, you feel that warmth. I can say that going to Africa is, you get that sensation times 1,000. You get that sensation of warmth, of embrace times 1,000, just by the environment, the atmosphere. So that's one thing that I can say that's similar. Another thing that's similar is when you go down south to your family and you see your auntie that you haven't seen in months or years, they want to feed you. Oh, have you eaten anything, babe? How's the grandkids? Do they need anything to eat? Everybody wants to feed you. And it's the same way in Africa. People want to feed you. They want you to feel, comfortable. And that's one thing, everywhere you go, people want you to feel welcome. They want you to be comfortable. And that's similarities that I've noticed. Other similarities is just the physical similarities, body types, facial types, things of that nature. So those are, familiarities that most people will experience, in their travels. Differences are cultural differences, traditional differences, language barrier.
Is it just the language and I mean the communication barriers? I'm quite sure the language is a big challenge, but did you feel embraced, as you talked about? Were they embracing you being there, and was there some curiosity about what it is that you were trying to find where you were, whether it was in Ghana or Niger or where?
Overall embrace. There was no pushback, no. I didn't really. There is a sense of you're not one of us because you're not, but there's not a sense of you shouldn't be here. That
Okay.
there's, it's just, the comfort zone. You have to build your comfort zone with people, a level of trust with people. And that's in general, that's when you travel anywhere. But as far as language, I've been in French speaking countries like Peter mentioned the Burkina Faso meeting that we had. I spent 2 years in Niger, and that's a French nation. I did take French in high school. I did not pay attention. So it caught up with me. But one thing I did learn, and again, with my military experience, as long as you are humble and you learn thank you, and some of the greetings, that will take you a long way. So those are the things that I did remember from my high school days. But one thing that I did notice is that depending on the country you go to, because I've been to several countries, depending on the country you go to, the local language may or may not be as spoken freely. Some places you go and the people are open to speak their local language. They're very open. They're proud of their local heritage and culture, and they're open with it. So it's not like they're trying to hide their local culture. In some places you go, they do hide their local culture. They will not speak their local language around you. They'll only speak whatever the official language is. So if you're in a French nation and the official language is French, depending on which country you go to, they will not speak the local language. They only speak French amongst each other. So that's one of the things that you kind of have to get used to. So what I do is I just make sure that I try to learn as much as I can wherever I'm going, whether it's the colonial language, which is French. In some places I've been to, the language is English. And I also try to learn as many of the local languages and dialects as possible. So
let me jump in again. You want to go?
You want to jump in, Peter?
I do. I'm anxious to get to the point where I can ask Shay about her investment experience in Africa. Give us some background and some ideas about what you're doing as an entrepreneur and your future plans for Africa.
So you did ask about ADDI, and that's one of the focuses of Dr. Arikana's vision and mission is making sure that there's a mindset shift for the diasporan, whether that's the African American or the African Caribbean, to understand that any investment that you would like to do, probably in your home country, that being America, or if you're in Jamaica or somewhere like that, consider doing that in Africa, and understanding that through ADDI and understanding that my financial means can be enhanced in Africa. I have a trucking logistics company in Sierra Leone. I support a friend of mine in Gambia. I'm on her her board for her sanitation company. She has a garbage collection company in Gambia. Also in Sierra Leone, I'm supporting a small pharmacy. In Ghana, I support several different companies and organizations. I support small companies, local companies, and I'm building a home in Ghana, and I'm trying to focus on developing a guest house on the property that I have in Ghana, but I have to build the home first. So I just don't see myself really investing too much more in the Americas anymore, because the opportunity is so vast and so great and almost limitless in Africa. So that's where I see myself. And when I did make my first trip in 2018 to Africa, to Ghana, I on the second or third day I said I'm going to retire here. And it's too easy. It's too easy to retire there. It's too easy to invest there. It's too easy to create a legacy in Africa. And that's where I see my future.
You sound very happy. Let me ask you this. You have partners in your African investment? Do you have partners?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Are they native Africans or are they diasporans?
Both. In Sierra Leone, my partner is Sierra Leonean. We both invested in the vehicles, and through him, I was able to, do my employment, my staffing. So that's one of the things that again, ADDI makes a point of, is developing relationships, and that's how you are productive in Africa, is by developing very good relationships that you can build trust with and move forward with. So in Sierra Leone, that's a local relationship, a local partnership. In Gambia, that's a diasporan, a young lady out of Texas. She has relocated to Gambia. She's a VP for a large pharmaceutical company that is headed by a Gambian, but her entrepreneurial venture is the sanitation company. In Ghana, I'm on a board for a sporting agency. That's local. That's completely local. Everyone there is all Ghanaian. I'm part of the African Association. I'm a member of the African Association of Ghana. That's pretty much all diasporan, even though we do have local members. So you have to mix it up. Just like our lineage is mixed up. Most of our lineage, once you start getting into your DNA and your history and your heritage, your family heritage, you'll find that we are all kind of mixed up. We don't go directly to any one particular tribe, in Africa. So I find myself to be a continental citizen, I guess you could say. So I don't discriminate.
Let me ask you again, and what I'm going to do is I'm really going to cut my questions short. We are going to have you back, and I appreciate your willingness to come back with us. But Gary, if you would, you want to get another question in, and after you finish, we're going to ask Shay to give us some closing remarks. Let us get more insight into her vision. So if you would, Gary, if you have another question, fine. If not, we're going to...
I do. I am intrigued by Shay's investments and how she's been able to penetrate a market that's foreign, I would say. So did you have any expectations when you decided to make those kind of investments? And certainly you've been able to create relationships. Is there a difference between the relationships you created in Ghana and Niger and Sierra Leone versus, in North Carolina, Fayetteville or something like that? So is it much easier to do that? How's the infrastructure?
Relationships, business relationships, totally different terrain. One of the things that you learn going abroad almost in general. If you're in Europe, it's similar to the United States. But if you're in most other countries, it's a cash society. Like you're not taking out a loan in Burkina Faso at one of the banks. You can, in some cases you can, but generally you're not doing that. So you have to build those connections. You have to understand, that trust level. But then when you go into business, for me, I think that the best way to go into business is by asking the locals, what is it that is needed locally? What are you have to look at the local market. That's in general. But then when it comes to your expenses and assets needed for your business, it's normally cash. It's normally cash. And that's a big hurdle that a lot of Americans have to get, or diasporans have to get used to, because we're used to loans, lines of credit, credit cards, things of that nature in order to start a business. And that's generally not how it works in most African nations. So that's a big bullet to bite, so I think that's a big thing that people need to understand going forward.
So that's a real good point, Shay, that, you have banks there and financial institutions, but, debt equity is not real key in terms of making those investments. So I'm trying to understand, how does that work? I mean, what's the purpose of having those institutions there if they're not making the kind of capital investments in some of these small businesses in the region?
It's really hard to say, because it's just like a lot of cash movement. I think those banks are in place pretty much for corporate. They're not there for like small business owners. Okay. They're there for big, entities, NGOs to move their money, maybe things of that nature. But it's not there for the low. Like if somebody wants to open up a barbershop, right. And I, a diasporan, want to invest or contribute to that barbershop being open, the likelihood is that that's going to be that local Burkinabe's opportunity to open up that barbershop, because otherwise he doesn't have enough collateral to open up to go to the bank to open up a bank account, even in most cases. So the financial part is a big hurdle. It's going to take a lot of it takes a lot of it's a lot of risk. So you have to be fearless, and you have to have a lot of liquid cash.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Peter, I could be here for the next hour asking.
I know
Shay.
you could. But we're not going to treat her like that. Shay, why don't you give us a few closing remarks and let us sign off with the promise that we will bring you back for another round.
Well, I'd just like to say, like, as far as travel to Africa, with like ADDI, they have their Burkina Faso trade and tourism trip coming up, and like was mentioned in that meeting, you have to go. You have to take that trip in order just to get the feel of Africa in general, but in this case mostly Burkina Faso, but just to remove that edge of apprehension or fear, kind of to remove that veil of propaganda that we've been told all of these years. Just take that one trip for vacation so that you can get a feel of what Africa has to offer. And it's the first Eden. So when you go, be open. When you go, you'll see so many opportunities. You'll get so many good feelings of, I can build a legacy here. I can see myself retiring here. I can see raising my children here. I can see the fruits that I can develop here. So to me, I think, Africa is the future, and we should, take our time there for vacation, and we should take our money there for investment.
Let me do this, and I'll close it out with this. And basically, what I want to do is call our viewers' attention to the Burkina Faso trade mission that ADDI is sponsoring, starting on April 27th and lasting up to May 9th. Now, our ADDI's website is where our viewers can go to get additional information. The web address is ouraddi.org. And while we're at it, we are urging all of our people to join ADDI in this mission for the economic liberation of Africa. Membership is free. There are paid memberships, but Dr. Arikana is leading an effort to help economically liberate Africa, and she needs all of our help. And part of the purpose of this podcast is to continue to call our people's attention to the fact that Africa needs them. We need Africa. Africa is our birthright. And with that, I'm going to say thanks to our co-hosts, thanks to our guests, and we will continue this at some point in the not too distant future. So thank you so much, Shay. Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jay. Take care.
Have a good evening.
You too.